Well, that first part ended a bit more abruptly than usual. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no need to apologise.
Okay, so this
cut
is...
me off. Just cut me off.
Yeah, I'll just cut you off right at the end. It was an accident. I was hovering over the mouse, and before you know it, you've pressed it. Yeah, we've done quite a fair bit of work here on this second part. This is quite a big part, so it may overextend onto what our videos usually are. This is the players who are free to talk to other clubs at the end of the season, talk to other franchises rather, and we've got an extensive list here. So we'll just run through some of them. We'll start with Paul Millsap of the Atlanta Hawks, who is available for pickup.
Yeah, again, and the Damari Carroll as well is also available. 2 players at the moment averaging double-digit points. You have to say they're the free agents, but the Hawks are on the rise. Had a little playoff run last season. Looking like one of the favourites in the East this season. Can't see them 2 leaving.
I doubt it. I think it'll be a bit of a bad move for them.
Yeah.
But whether the Atlanta Hawks might want to get a couple of players off the wage bill to then bring in somebody in. For example, I mean, I read the other day that Carmelo Anthony's interested in the Hawks, although I can't really see how that would quite fix. That I read that on some basketball. I think it was a bit of speculation.
Yeah, I should think so. Might be one for the future, but it would take a lot to drag Carmelo over.
Yeah. There are 8 players currently on the Boston Celtics wage bill on their salary cap. On their roster that are nearing the end of their contracts, and the likes of Tayshaun Prince, Marcus Thornton, Brandon Bass, they're all coming to the end of their contracts.
And they would have well over 30 million to spend next season, and you've got to imagine that's 30 million as far as wages goes. And they've had a lot of money on trade exceptions.
Because of the fact that they're trading Rajon Rondo, they've got quite a few draft picks from that deal that sent him to the Dallas Mavericks, and they've got quite a lot of money in the bank as well.
So, and you look at them players, I can't see them signing a lot of them up. I'm not sure about Thornton. He's good off the bench, but has he been productive enough? Bass has always been at the Celtics for a while.
Bass is someone that's part of the furniture, really. It wouldn't be the end of the world to shift him off the wage bill, but it's almost like a loyalty thing, isn't it? If you're like the general manager of the Celtics, you don't want to get rid of Bass because he's given you such a great deal of service over the years.
It kind of depends how much they want. Something like Tayshaun Prince, I think he's on something like 7 or 8 million.
I think they could offload him and still be in a decent position. Moving on to the Nets now, 2 players that are coming towards the end of their contract. One is Kevin Garnett. He's currently on $12 million a year. So obviously somebody that the Nets are going to have to look at. Well, I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it? He's not a $12 million a year player, is he really?
But there's a lot of talk that he could be stepping over and moving somewhere else because obviously he doesn't feel that there's the championship aspirations now in Brooklyn.
Well, to be fair, yesterday, or was it? Monday. I can't remember who they played on Monday. There was only a couple of points. Did they win or the loss?
They beat was it the Clippers? I can't remember. It was something like that.
And there was only 2 points in it, wasn't there?
2-point game.
And I saw a completely different Nets team to the one that the Clippers absolutely trashed earlier. I haven't seen the Nets since that 1-2-4 80-yard victory because I just thought I can't watch this. And it was actually the same game where another player, Teletovic, had to be taken to a medical facility because of a blood clot.
Also runs out of contract. So again,
I'd imagine that because of the injury that he's had, because of the condition that he's had, his contract will be extended, in my opinion.
I think it might be. I don't know. Probably maybe for he's going to get a lot of money from the league. I should imagine the league's very good at this. They don't leave players on the sideline to earn no money. If he's got medical bills to pay, the league will certainly help him as he's a partner of the league. Well, obviously for the Nets it's a tough situation, but people are going to evaluate him if he does come back.
But as a player, look at the quality 3-point shooter. Certainly. And the thing is, I still think the parts I've seen of him, he adds a lot to the Nets.
He does.
Offense, and in all fairness, if we're just looking at it not from a sympathetic point of view, the fact that he's got this condition, but I think he merits his place on his form alone.
Certainly does.
Prior to the injury, prior to the condition. Looking at 2 Hornets players now that both have player options, Al Jefferson and Gerald Henderson. For me, Al Jefferson has to stay because he's a man mountain. brings so much to the Hornets, both offensively and defensively. Really commands the court. As for Gerald Henderson, I think they can live with him and they can live without him.
Yeah, I think obviously for people that don't know the whole player option, team option, etc. Player option.
Just explain that a bit.
Basically, we've got probably a season left now, where they have a player option where they can accept that contract, or they can reject the contract and go into free agency. Much like Carmelo Anthony did last season, he had an offer on the table from the Knicks. Because he was on a player option, he had the option to opt out and go into free agency. So at the moment, Al Jefferson and Gerald Henderson both have contracts on the table, but they can say to the Hornets, actually, we want to go elsewhere for either more money or less money, even.
Or for a better chance at winning the championship, because the Hornets aren't really going to be the side. No. Having said that, though, they are kind of lingering with they're flirting with the playoffs, shall we say? But even if they were to get into the playoffs,
they're not much of a chance. I think they could make it due to the fact that the Nets, the Heat, are playing so poor right now that they probably will sneak in like they are at the moment, just about.
Okay, 2 players that are coming to the end of the deals for the Chicago Bulls are Mike Dunleavy and Aaron Brooks.
Yeah, two really good role players there. Again, 2 players I'd really, if I was the Bulls, I'd want to keep. Aaron Brooks is a great backup to Derrick Rose.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly
what they need.
But how much longer does Brooks want to be a backup? Isn't there going to be a point in his career where he goes, you know what, I want to be the man. I don't want to be a backup.
I think in the scheme of things, in this day and age of point guards, there's very few teams that he could go to and say, I'll be the starter. Because, I mean, you couldn't go to the Western Conference, for instance, because there is no team there.
And then you'd have to drop somewhere like the Sixers and stuff, wouldn't you?
Yeah, even you'd want a bit of Bulls.
Yeah. It depends what kind of career you want. Do you want appearances or do you want championships?
Yeah.
And most players would go for the latter.
Championships.
Some lads in my team, I hope we keep all of these, to be honest, and I think we will. They're all on player options. LeBron James is an absolute must to tie down because he's still, in my opinion, is the best player in NBA. Kevin Love as well. We've got a bit of a debate about him, whether he made the right decision signing him or not. J.R. Smith, who's in the form of his life at the moment from free throw range, and Mike Miller, who's a bit of an inconsistent player, and they're all on player options. So run us through those 4. What do you reckon we should do with those?
They're all going to re-sign because they're all getting good money, especially players like Mike Miller wants to stay now. I think he wants to settle down. I don't think at his stage in his career he wants to be jumping ships again. J.R. Smith, I'm sure he's not going to want to move elsewhere. I don't think there's many teams that would take
match
the risk
his wages
with him.
As well.
And I think he'll be happy on his wages at the Cavaliers and at a championship level team.
And with the Cavaliers, I was just about to say, you are at a team that where they will be competing, not necessarily winning, but they will be in the conversation. LeBron's a must, and the player that I'd be willing to lose out of all those would be probably Kevin Love.
Yeah.
And we'll have a chat at the next part, I'm sure. Quickly moving on because we've got so many to go through. Should we do 3 at the same time so we can get through those?
Players,
So we've got Tyson Chandler, Rajon Rondo, Monte and Monte Ellis. Monte Ellis is on a player option and Chandler and Rondo are coming to the end of the deals. Why is Rondo coming to the end of the deal when he's only just signed?
Well, obviously he signed the contract that he still had from the Celtics, still carries on. So basically, the Mavericks are paying the same wages that the Celtics are paying him. So he ends the contract. That was the risk of the trade, was the fact that Rondo would be coming to the end of his deal this year and could potentially opt out if he wants to and say, I don't want to stay here.
Can't see that as a possibility unless there's something going on.
It'd be interesting. I think it'd be interesting in Monte Ellis because his performance right now is teetering on the fact that he could be on for near enough a max contract. Not quite a max contract, but you're talking like 15, 16 million. He'll be requesting that considering he's played this season, the amount of games he's won for the Mavericks on his own.
And Tyson Chandler's a bit part player, really. Somebody that's good coming from the bench. But, he's one of them, isn't he? Like we've said with people like Garnett and Teletovic, you can live without them. Yeah. He's not going to define the Mavericks. Yeah, he's a good player, but he's somebody that could afford to lose.
With losing Brandon Wright in a trade, he's more valuable now. Certainly not a great scorer. He doesn't score many baskets, but he certainly rebounds a lot. And he's a defensive presence that most teams would be happy to have.
I think he'll probably stay. In terms of Monte Ellis, obviously not hitting quite the heights that he did earlier on, but he's certainly a player that I'm sure that the Mavericks will be hoping to keep. Right, we'll quickly go through a few more of these. We might have to split the video in two this because we've got so many. We're looking at Greg Monroe of the Pistons and Draymond Green of the Warriors now. So we'll just quickly go through them.
Greg Monroe at the Pistons. I think Pistons are on good form. They've put a lot into him. The fact that they've traded off Josh Smith.
I was going to say,
going. As for Draymond Green, I think there's a chance they're going to have to give him a good contract. He's on still his rookie contract at the moment. That runs out. They're going to have to give him a good contract because he's contributing a lot right now. And that may mean they might have to offload other players like Morris Spates. Might have to decide to not re-sign him because they'll have to keep Draymond, that's a certain. And on to the Houston Rockets as well.
Yeah. And Josh Smith, player we were just talking about a minute ago, is currently on less than $1 million, which is quite a low number for a basketball player. But they do have cap space to offer a bigger contract. Unfortunately, most, and I don't want to label sports personalities, but a lot of them are kind of mercenaries in a way. They do the sport for the money. I mean, of course, some of them do it for the love of it. But I think Josh Smith is not going to sit on a contract that's less than $1 million, unfortunately. So they're either going to have to offer him one which at least quadruples his salary, probably even more, or he'll try and seek that contract elsewhere.
Yeah, I think obviously he was waived by the Pistons, so he had to take his contract. He fits in at the Rockets, especially off the bench. He's good, very close friends with Dwight Howard, so he won't be going anywhere. He'll stay. He'll probably take about $2-3 million. They'll be honest and give him a decent contract for what he offers.
And how about Jason Terry, another Rockets player?
He's going to be interesting because, again, they have the cap space, but do they want to go in there for another player who will potentially replace the star that they had in Chandler Parsons? Jason Terry is a very good role player. Probably not too many seasons left in him, but I'm sure there's a lot of teams around the league who'd be happy to have him shooting 3-pointers for them.
Okay, we're going to kill two birds with one stone now. Look at the Indiana Pacers. Couldn't get my words out there. Two players that are both on player options, Roy Hibbert and David West. And then we're going to talk about Louis Scola, Chris Copeland, CJ Watson, and DeAndre Jordan of the Clippers all in one go.
Yeah, again, this is a good one here. Roy Hibbert, David West are crucial players. They're on a lot of money though. They don't have much money to play with.
David West for me is a very good player, and I think the Pacers should try and do their best to keep him. Somebody like CJ Watson is obviously somebody that can utilise in certain matchups, and for me, Chris Copeland is okay.
Yeah, I think all of those three, Scola, Copeland and Watson, unless they take a big pay cut, I don't think they're going to be getting new contracts because, again, they're so tight on the budget at the moment anyway. They're not really in a room where they can... If they sign all these players back, then they've got no room to play with. They can't bring anyone in unless they trade.
For me, the DeAndre Jordan thing for the Clippers, he's got to stay, in my opinion. The link up between himself and Griffin is quite something. And I can't imagine who would have him anyway. I mean, people would want him, but it's about fitting him into certain franchises and systems. He's perfect for the Clippers.
It works well, and I think Doc Rivers is a big fan of him.
Yeah.
I know you've watched a lot of Clippers games this season. You've seen how good he can be, even though he's still probably one of the underrated centres in the league, just because of the production in terms of points. But his field goal percentage and rebounding is ridiculously good.
Yeah, it is pretty special. Staying with the Clippers, Jamal Crawford, who's on $5.6 million a year, and Matt Barnes is on $3.5 million a year. And they both have team options, and I would imagine both are likely to stay, especially Jamal Crawford.
Yeah, again, that's team options, obviously on the team to decide. I don't think that's too much money for players like Crawford, who's several times won Sixth Man of the Year. I mean, $5.6 million ain't bad at all.
No, especially when you think of the likes of what Kobe Bryant and LeBron are earning.
So, and then Matt Barnes again, he's a really good producer for a starter to be on $3.5 million. It's as effective as Barnes.
But the thing is, would somebody like Barnes want a pay rise because of the way that the franchise has performed and the way he's performed?
We don't have to say. They probably have to have discussions with these guys because obviously for them to give a team option, that would mean they'd have this option for the rest of the season. Now, you don't want to give somebody $3.5 million, $5.6 million if they're not going to re-sign. So they're going to have to decide, are they going to re-sign? If they say yeah, they'll give them it. If
I think
not,
what we'll do is, because we're on 15 minutes, we'll run through about 3 or 4 more and then split the rest into the next.
The rest onto the next
yeah,
part.
because we don't want to bore you, so you can go and grab a cup of tea, go to the toilet, do whatever, and you can watch the next part.
Talk about the Lakers now.
Yeah, let's do a bit of the Lakers. They've only got 4 guaranteed contracts, including Kobe Bryant and Nick Young. Steve Nash is likely to draw the curtains on a long and illustrious career. And Jordan Hill has a $9 million team option. So what do you make of those? Just to carry on with the Lakers. Tariq Black and Jeremy Lin, they're both good assets for any team, of course. And Carlos Boozer. So if you just want to quickly run through those.
Obviously there's a lot of money going on Kobe. There's a lot of money there to play with again. I'm not sure about Jordan Hill. I think you can get a better option than Jordan Hill for less than $9 million. I mean, if you look at Jordan Hill's production for $9 million compared to Jamal Crawford and Matt Barnes' production, when they're earning between them less money.
Yeah, I mean, you've got for me, Carlos Boozer, one of the most underrated players in the NBA. For me, he brings you so much. And if he was in a bigger franchise like the Cavaliers, your Heat, your Hawks, people would be absolutely raving about him. It's because he's in a team that are strugglers, that people don't rate him as highly. And they say that you're only as good as the people around you, but I'm not sure I believe that quite as much. And Kobe Bryant will stay, injury or no injury, because of who he is. Nick Young...
Again, he's on the contract, so they've got to keep him around.
They've got to keep him.
Fantastic scorer, though.
I mean, for me, he just doesn't do enough defensively.
No, there's a lot of players out there, which are reason that probably a lot of the fact they've only got 4 guaranteed. I mean, you've got a lot of space.
Do you think they'd waive somebody like Nick Young to bring in a player that could do more than he can do? Because the Lakers are down there. They need to kick up the backside a little bit. And
I think they'd probably try and play the cards that they've got at the moment, see what they can get, see if they can get somebody like a Thaddeus Young, or get somebody as high as like a Stoudemire or etc. You know, get somebody like that. They'd have to see about that.
And of course, if Steve Nash retires, it will be a shame for basketball. He's been a big player for all the years, as fans, we've got a lot to sort of thank him for. Have you mentioned Black and Lin yet?
I haven't, but Black, I'd expect him to re-sign personally. I'd keep him. He's a good backup centre. Jeremy Lin, I think, offers a lot as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if either of them got offloaded for the greater cause of things in the Lakers.
And what do you make of Jordan Hill? I mean, that $9 million for a player of his calibre is a lot of money. He's a decent player, but when we were just talking about Crawford on 5.6, why is a player like him earning $9 million?
I know. If I could offer him less, I'd keep him. If not, I wouldn't keep him for $9 million.
Yeah, that's obviously the team got an option. Thank you very much. This is part 2 of UK NBA. That was the first part of the free agents. We've got more coming next. It's the only place on YouTube, I hope, which you get this extensive coverage.